It's an exciting moment to have you join us on the midweek edition of Global Morning today. It is a wonderful day. Well, just like a joke, the month is on a very high speed. I don't know if you're feeling the same, but everything is still going on. The rain seems to be reducing in some parts of Abuja. And of course, in some parts, it's still raining. But then for this morning, I think the weather is a bit clear in my own area where I am at the moment. My name is Ramsey Enoch Agbo, and of course, I'm not here alone. I am here with Jumai Manson. Good morning, Jumai.
Good morning, Ramsey. How are you doing today?
Yes, I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good. Thank God for life. Thank God for everything. Thank God in general. And of course, to each and every one of you out there, it's great to be here. Good morning, and I hope you are enjoying the rains in some part of Abuja, like Ramsey made it known. Yesterday, in my own area, it rained heavily, and then I think it affected the light and all of that. And that's the thing. That's what comes with rain. But hopefully today it's a beautiful day. The weather is a bit cloudy today. I think it wants to rain.
Yeah, it may rain in some parts of FCT.
Somewhere.
And well, we can't talk about Lagos, we can't talk about Port Harcourt because
Yes.
it's always raining in those places.
Yes, it is.
I'm talking about power failure, all right? Power interruption when it's raining.
interruption,
I was
yes.
just thinking, because someone said something, he said, well, when it's raining, there is this thing that happens. It's either the network is poor or power will be interrupted.
Very true.
Then I was thinking, is it the same thing in every part of the world, or is just common to the Nigerian system? But I think it's natural somehow, depending on the kind of equipment that is being used, the kind of materials that it's being used, how strong is the mast, the power, how good our poles, what's the nature of our transformers. You put all these things together because there are lightnings. What kind of thunder arresters do we have? I actually know all of this because I've partly been with these power people, doing one or two things as a media person.
Multitasking.
That's long time ago. As media people, we partner with these people in different ways. Yes, so it depends on what is being used, the kind of material, what kind of things, all right, that was used to arrest the thunder. Because when there's lightning, before you know, ping, power has been interrupted. It's common in Nigeria. But then I think we are growing, we are advancing. Is a digital world. Maybe solar may not have that kind of issue if your batteries are charged, whether it's raining or not.
Yeah.
You will have power in your house. And I'm looking at a few years from now, what happened to cell phones? The same thing will happen to power in this country. Remember when phone first came, people started using Turaya, which was very expensive. Only the rich could afford it.
Turaya, I remember Turaya.
Then later on, people started buying SIM for as high as some thousands,
Yes.
30,000.
Very true.
Few persons had phone then. The almighty Nokia came then and just...
Nokia 3310. I still remember that phone, oh my God.
And gradually everybody, there is no home now that 2 or 3 persons will not have a phone.
Exactly.
An Android phone. Now we have iPhone.
Yeah.
So technology is advancing. The same thing, I foresee the same thing happening to power in this country. If Aso Rock can say bye-bye to PHCN or whatever it is, we also should be trusting God that one day everyone in this country will have power in their house uninterrupted.
I think
courtesy of solar.
Yes, I think solar has come and has come to stay. It's an era of advancement to show that fine. You don't have to be dependent on, of course, the power that we have or we source from. You can actually have your own thing in your home, as long as you have enough batteries to carry it, enough panels to carry all of that, you are good to go. Whether it's raining, whether the only thing that will be interrupted is maybe cable, for instance, because anything that has to do with rain, what happens. There's this epileptic occurrence that happens when you are watching the cable or network on your phone. But aside that, once you have the solar, you know that your fridge is on point, you have light everywhere, and you are good to go. The world is evolving. People are coming up with new inventions every day. Before you know it, maybe we might switch to something else. It might not be solar anymore. You'll be shocked that you don't have so many numbers of panels before you can have a stable light, because you need panels and you need batteries in order to sustain that very high balance of solar usage and all of that. So something might just evolve maybe next year or before the end of this year. Someone might just have an invention that can give you an alternative.
Yeah, it's possible.
Instead of it's very possible. The world is evolving. We're going digital, so we have to all embrace it, and slowly and surely.
I can't wait.
You can see what's happening in the power sector. Most people have actually gone out of it, and most people have made up their minds that once they have the right backing when it comes to solar, the panels, the batteries, they will cut away from the power. It will save a lot when it comes to the hike, when it comes to the amount we pay for electricity and all of that. People will just cut off from it, and I think,
now it's privatized. It's not in the hands of the government anymore.
It is.
Even though we still have some one or two government regulations, but then I think it's true, because I remember when computers started. From the first generation, second generation to what we have now.
Yes.
The chip in this computer that makes it work right now is very small.
Very tiny.
Before it was big.
Yes,
but
it was.
Gradually, this is what we have today. Such that with your phone, you can even do what a laptop can do. So we're looking forward to that time when, of course, every Nigerian, every home will have it. And of course, nobody will come and tell you, well, I'm coming to cut your light, I'm coming to disconnect you because you've not paid your bills, and especially those who are paying estimated bill. Just recently, I think they went around distributing, of course, prepaid meter.
Exactly.
And this meter is running like something. It's running like seriously. It's running seriously.
Like I was telling a friend of mine, and I said, I do not understand. I would like to know whether it's band A, band B. I want to be sure, because I don't understand anymore.
Does the band work anymore?
I have no idea. You see yourself, like for some people, you might just decide to, subscribe to the meter. You spend nothing less than either 40, 50,000 naira, and you are still wondering what's going on. It just runs so fast, and you're wondering, and you hardly turn on the ACs. That of course is raining now, and then you just wonder. There's some things that you just cannot use anymore, because come on, things are really high. It's
all right.
It's a lot to deal with.
I love Nigerians because Nigerians are optimistic people.
Yes, we are.
And they have, should I say, shock absorber.
Yes,
so whatever happens, Nigerians adjust to the situation. All right, everyone. Let's take a quick break as we bring you taste and texture.
Yes.
What are you preparing for breakfast? You might decide to change your mind right now. Let's just give you a tip, maybe an idea of what you can actually have this morning.
Yes.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Taste and Texture. This is your super innovative chef, Saadatu Garba. Today, we're going to prepare an easy delicacy, and we will be breaking down the entire process. In this episode of the program, we'll be preparing pancakes with syrup. Pancake is always a delicious and simple breakfast option. This one is a recipe that is filling, delicious, and nutritious. Also, this breakfast pancake can be made in under 5 minutes by anyone. In addition to the speed and ease of making it, it is also fun to make. Ingredients: flour, sugar, egg, milk, salt, oil, and butter. Add a cup of flour into a bowl. Add 2 teaspoons of sugar and baking powder. Add a teaspoon of salt and mix all together. Add a cup of milk into the dry mixture. Crack 1 egg and whisk, then add into the batter. Add 2 tablespoons of oil and mix everything together, then set aside. Heat up a pan with little oil. Scoop your pancake batter and add into the heated pan. Allow to cook for a minute, then flip when the edges are brown. Repeat the process until you exhaust the batter. Serve with syrup and butter, and your fluffy pancakes are ready to enjoy. That's how we end today's episode of Taste and Texture. I hope you found our recipe insightful. Let's do this again next time, and be sure to join me for another taste-friendly delicacy. I am Saadatu Garba, your creative chef, saying thank you for watching.
All right, you're welcome back, and hope you enjoyed that segment. Of course, my favorite segment, Taste and Texture. No, you can't take that away from me, Ramsey. That's my favorite segment. And of course, that was delicious, mouth-watering, your malicious, tasty pancakes. My best. As
See adjective now.
And then, of course, please try it out. Pancakes are delicious, especially when you add the maple syrup. Some people add honey, but just stick with syrup. You'll be fine, and it's delicious. You should try it out. It's very simple with the flour, the sugar, the milk. Some people don't want to add milk. Some people actually use wheat flour to make that. So you can try it out. It depends. So please enjoy and have an amazing breakfast. And up next is Inspirational with my amazing co-host, Ramsey Enoch Agbo. Let's be inspired with Heart to Heart Inspirational. Stay tuned.
Hello and welcome to another beautiful day right here. It is Heart to Heart Inspirational. And of course, my name is Ramsey Enoch Agbo. Your voice matters. That's what we want to look at today. I want to say your day is blessed. Why do I have to say so? Because you are a blessed child. Because God have something very beautiful packed for this day for you. But then I want us to look at something very beautiful today. Let's talk heart to heart. It takes someone who cares about you to talk to your heart to heart. My name is Ramsey Enoch Agbo. Now, I want us to speak to our hearts on a very powerful subject that is titled Guard Your Hope. All right, guard your hope. Guard it. Guard it. Your hope. Guard it. Don't do it anyhow. Just guard it. Yeah, of course, we're living in a very difficult time. Everyone is aware of that. But then many people are tired. Many people are frustrated. Prices are rising. Jobs are scarce. Businesses are struggling on a daily basis. And of course, many young people are asking questions. When will things get better? Sometimes some kids at home even ask their parents, because some parents complain every time. Why are we facing all of this? When are things going to be better? Sometimes you think these things are peculiar to you alone. No, it's not. It's not peculiar to you alone. The way you handle situations matters so much. But in the middle of all these challenges, one thing you must never lose is your hope. Guard it, no matter what. Because they said a living dog is better than a dead lion. And that's the truth. Because the day a person loses hope is the day they stop fighting for a better future. Nigeria, for instance, it's built on hope. Every morning, Nigerians wake up early, enter buses, open their shops, go to farm, some go to their offices, some go to the market, some go to the construction site, depending on what you are doing. That is someone that has hope. All right? You won't just sit down and fold your arms. These things are being done because they still believe that tomorrow can be better. Powerful. Now, hope is a powerful thing. A student reading with a torchlight, all right, doing blackout is operating on hope. A mother that is selling akara by the roadside today as we speak to train her children is surviving on hope. A graduate, for instance, all right, learning a skill after years of unemployment is holding on to hope. So what am I trying to say? Hope is what keeps people moving. when life becomes difficult. That's why you need to guard your hope. You need to protect your hope. You don't need to allow anyone bring negativity to you. All right? Keep pushing. And that's the reason you need to guard your hope down. And let us also be honest. Hope is under serious attack today. A lot of people's hope is under serious attack today, because most times someone told me something some times back, and they said, well, there are some channels I don't watch because the moment you put it on, only negative news. War here, this one here, this one that, negative news, disappointments, betrayals. Those are the things you watch. Failed promises, hardship, of course. Comparison on social media is everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. I don't know, a lot of people, most times, people talk about social media today because we are in a digital age, of course. And, you know, if you begin to compare yourself with what you see on social media, right, which may not be real, what does it do? It weakens people. It weakens your mentality. It weakens people's belief. It destroys your hope. Because you feel, well, this person is like this, why am I not like that? This person is also a graduate. No, these are people operating on different chapters. Some people even started this year with dreams, but along the line, discouragement entered their hearts. As we speak today, a lot of people, if you ask them today, all right, you had a lot of resolutions, things you want to achieve in 2026 when this year got started. But where are you today? Some people don't even know where that paper is right now as we speak, because their hope has been dashed. And that is why you must guard your hope carefully. Don't allow temporary situations to convince you that your future is finished. Never. Your future is not finished. No, you don't need to be negative. You don't need to sound negative. One thing that I never do, and I will never do, is staying around negative people. Most times I mind my business. Where there is negativity, where there is bad blood, I avoid it. That's my kind of person. Because there are some things you don't need to give your ears to. There are some things you don't need to hear. Deliberately move out of such associations, such gatherings, if you can. But then try as much as possible, especially when it's affecting your hope and your belief, especially when it's affecting your journey of destiny. Many successful Nigerians today once passed through painful seasons. There are even business owners today who once sold products under the hot sun with no customers. There are actors, musicians, journalists like we are, and even entrepreneurs who were rejected many times before succeeding. Have you not gone for an interview before and you were treated like, wow, you don't know anything? But there is an organization somewhere who needs your services. So I tell people all the time, don't be where you are tolerated. Always be where you are celebrated. Right? One thing that is permanent is change. That's the only constant thing. Imagine if they had given up. Hope does not mean pretending problems do not exist. Problems exist. For real. Yeah, that's it. But hope means believing that problems are not permanent. They come and go. They are transient. There is a popular Nigerian saying that no condition is permanent, and that's very true. The rain does not actually fall forever. The night does not last forever. Tough seasons eventually change. But while waiting for change, protect your mindset. Guard your heart jealously, because out of it comes the issue of life. Even the Holy Book says so. Dare be careful who speak into your life. Yeah, be careful. I think that's very important. Be careful who speak into your life. If anybody is speaking negative thing into your life, if anybody is telling you, you are this, you are that, and it is a negative statement, return it back to them immediately. Reject it. Because you are a hopeful person, but because you may not be where you are expecting to be at a very particular point in time, does not mean you are not going to get there. So don't allow anyone talk you down. Don't allow anyone mess your destiny up, because they are at a very maybe peak of their life, or maybe because they have one position or the other, or maybe they are richer, or maybe they have more opportunity than you are at a very particular point in time. Don't allow anyone talk you down. Don't allow anyone say negative things into your ear all the time. Anyone that tells you you can't, always stay hopeful. Guard your hope and tell them you can. No should not be an answer. It should not be something you take. All right? So, as a matter of fact, some people destroy hope with negativity, like I said, and every day they speak fear, they speak failure, they speak discouragement, they stay around people who inspire. You see, one thing you need to do, people who destroy your inspiration are not worth staying around them. You don't need them. You don't need them. People who are always discouraging you, people who are always promoting failure, people who are always speaking fear, you don't need to stay around them, all right? What do you have to do? Try as much as possible to stay around people who inspire growth, wisdom, faith, and stop comparing your life with others. Social media, I keep saying this, has made people feel behind in life. No. Some buy new cards online and another person suddenly feel like, oh, this, when, oh God, when? Listen carefully. Your journey is different from every other person. Some people bloom today, some people blow early, like Nigerians will say, and others blow later. So blow, not blow. Success, not success. It depends on when yours comes, all right? So do everything and stay positive, and be careful who you listen to. Be careful what you allow into your ear, into your heart, because out of the heart, all right, so many things comes out. So guard your hope jealously. Have a wonderful time. I believe someone has been talked to positively. I wish you all the best. See you at the other side of success. Bye-bye for now.
You're welcome back, and hope you were well inspired with that heart-to-heart inspirational with my co-host Ramsey Enoch Agbo. And he said something vital: be careful who you listen to. Success is very important that we guard our hope. Be hopeful. First of all, number one on the list is be prayerful, be hopeful, and be determined. And you as an individual need to work hard. For as much as you are careful with whom you listen to, you must always try your best to believe in you. Because if you do not believe in yourself, your hope will be dashed. It doesn't matter who comes to inspire you, motivational speaker. You as an individual must know that you can accomplish greatness once you put your mind to it. Yes, that was heart-to-heart inspirational with Ramsey Enoch Agbo. Hope you're well inspired. Be hopeful, be positive. Positivity, they say it's key. So it's very important we understand that. Up next is the newspaper review segment. Do not go anywhere. Stay tuned.
In an age of breaking news, you need a trusted source that prioritizes accurate, factual, and unbiased reporting. This is AM News, and I am Ubong Usoro.
On global television, our news is rooted in verified and authoritative storytelling that keeps you educated, informed, and enlightened on all the issues that matter to you. I am Sadia Yakubu. This is Midday News.
You can trust a multi-platform news broadcast, real-time and fast-check stories for all the big local and foreign headlines round the clock. I am Ramsey Enoch Agbo. This is News Express.
Our array of anchors delivers the news to our teeming viewers, breaking it down with context and perspective. This is News Cycle on Global Television. I am Anieti Patrick.
And the flagship news is your hub for the day's most engaging stories. This is News Prime, and I am Jumai Manson.
Did you miss any of our news rounds? No worries. Catch up at 10 p.m. and midnight, 7 days of the week. I am Mukhtar Kasim.
Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. We're active across all social media platforms at Global TV NG. All right, you're welcome back, and yes, it's the newspaper review segment on Global Morning, and we're going to start with the first paper of the day, and the first paper is the Guardian newspaper, and below the nameplate, it says here on page 3, it says 2027, APC pleads with substituted aspirants to shelve litigation. And here on page 5, it reads, Oyo abductions, pressure mounts as operatives close in on abductors. Okay. And on number 3, and page 3 says xenophobia. Despite outrage, Senate reject reciprocal action against South Africa. Okay. And then the Star Story reads on page 6, it says here, anxiety as planned expansion may affect 2,700 buildings, 10,800 homes. And still on the Guardian newspaper on page 7, it says, Nigeria's population growth may worsen sanitation crisis, and that's from AFDB warns. And on page 30, it says, Senate rejects Boko Haram rehabilitation, says justice must prevail. And I completely agree. And on page 4, it says, NBA cites autonomy, rejects AGF's intervention in officers' election. And on page 5, it says, police confirm probing 30 political killings ahead of Osun Garba polls. And on page 6, it says, PFIPC Tinubu orders ICPC probe as Senate distances itself from controversy. And basically, those are the major headlines on the Guardian newspaper. Please go out and get yourself a copy and be well informed with issues making rounds. Next, we have The Punch.
Thank you very much. Let's quickly look at the Punch newspaper for you this morning. On the Punch newspaper, there are some headlines above the nameplate. Dangote breaks ground on $17 billion Kenya refinery, meaning there is a refinery coming up in Kenya, and $17 billion worth. Xenophobia, Senate pushes sanctions against South Africa, other probes. El-Rufai abuse medical visit, doctor arrested. This is coming from ICPC. Details you can find on page 24. Warri PH refineries, ex-MDs face trials over alleged $989,630. Then 1.42 billion naira fraud. All right. All right. Now we have these other headlines. NBA insists on officers' election amid AGF row. Ogun records 161 deaths from 415 road crashes. That's coming from the Federal Road Safety Corps. The State Police. Tinubu names Gbajabiamila AGF to Implementation Committee. All right. Then this one says 36.2 million Nigerians at risk of acute food insecurity. EFCC hands over 1,452 recovered items to Unity schools. And now the big story, which is the star story on the Punch newspaper this morning. A fake agency scandal. Tinubu orders 30-day ICPC probe. Senate rejects blame. All right, some riders to that story. Anti-graft agency to probe alleged forgery, impersonation, bank accounts. Police release Adeyemi's father. Continue search for embattled DG. The Senate insists 1.3 billion naira budget line not inserted by lawmakers declines intervention without petition. And those are the headlines for you this morning on the Punch newspaper. You can grab a copy of the Punch newspaper for more details as we move to our next point of call, which is This Day newspaper.
All right, now This Day newspaper, above the nameplate, it says Tinubu to Afrexim Bank. Speed up move to mobilize resources for Africa's industrialization. And we have a rider there. It says bank commits $20 billion into Nigerian economy in the last 5 years. And this read you will find on page 8. Now, above the nameplate slightly a bit, it says President directs ICPC to investigate PFIPC, and that is on page 32. And here also, below the nameplate, it says here on page 8, it says Tinubu inaugurates Gbajabiamila-led 7-man presidential working group for implementation of state police nationwide. And that's a step in the right direction. And the star story reads, NNPC $3.4 billion saved through contact restructuring, 19.5 trillion naira remitted to Federation in 14 months. And we have about 4 riders there. It says maintains 100% JV cash call payments, seeks partner compliance. FG has hired PwC to streamline over 270 fees, taxes, says Lakpobiri. And Renaissance finds new oil, OML 74 after SPDC acquisition. IPPG Middle East crisis exposed Nigeria's capacity gap. And basically, those are all the major headlines on This Day newspaper. Please go out and get yourself a copy and be well informed with the issues making rounds. Next, we have The Nation.
All right, let's quickly look at The Nation's newspaper this morning and see the headlines therein. Just above the nameplate, this one says more pressure on abductors to free Orire victims. NRS targets a 50 trillion naira tax revenue by December. And this one says row among lawyers over leaked memos suspending NBA election. A terrorist killed in Katsina as ISWAP chief surrender. Right. We just wish that surrendering is genuine. The 21 APC governors back president's re-election. What were you expecting? Why Tinubu deserves support by Tompolo. President's panel on state police begins work. That's where we're told just now that Gbajabiamila is part of the committee. Okay, someone may be saying, well, investigation is going on. He's getting more assignment. Should he wait until the investigation is up because he's actually fingered, been named in the scandal? Well, the federal government knows better. Now the big story on the Punch newspaper. Tinubu orders comprehensive probe of fake federal agency. And of course, we have this one which says ICPC gets 30 days to submit report. Gbajabiamila threatened 10 billion naira defamation suit against Adeyemi. And of course, it's likely to adopt retaliatory measures against South Africa. Well, I don't know, the South African authorities not saying anything. Evacuation still going on as we speak. A flight is in Johannesburg to evacuate Nigerians as we speak right now. All right, that's the size of the conversation. Of course, the review on the nation's newspaper next is Daily Independent.
All right, now Daily Independent, above the nameplate, it says here, broadband subscription in Nigeria surged to 120.7 million after 9-month streak. Fake PFIPC, Gbajabiamila denies knowing Adeyemi, and that read you will find on page 4. And the star story on the Daily Independent says FG's $1 billion AFCFTA fund may fail without structural reforms. And on page 7 it says Senate weighs tough sanctions against South Africa over xenophobia. And on page 6 it says despite distractions, opposition vows to unseat ruling APC. And on page 7 it says NAS inserted 8.4 billion naira road project into our budget, Almajiri Commission. And here it says here, avoid collecting unsolicited gifts. CGN wants new judges, and that's on page 6. And here it says, amid criticisms, Tinubu orders 30-day ICPC probe of PFIPC, and the writer says why we're staying out of PFIPC controversy by Senate. And below the foot of the Daily Independent, it says here, Ajaokuta Streets, NMPC signs landmark 20-year gas supply pack. And that's on page 29. Basically, those are all the major headlines on the Daily Independent. Up next is the Daily Times. Over to you, Ramsey.
All right, from the Daily Times to the Daily Independent, let's quickly look at the Daily Independent for you and see the headlines that we have there. On the Daily Independent this morning, we have this one, which is the big story. The federal government's $1 billion AFCFTA fund may fail without structural reforms. Then above the nameplate, we have this headline which says broadband subscription in Nigeria surged to 120.7 million after 7-month streak. A fake PFIPC, Gbajabiamila denies Adeyemi, and of course, all right, we'll bring you Daily Times. All right, let's go to Daily Times. Let's do Daily Times instead of Daily Independent. All right, on Daily Times, PFIPC, no petition before Senate spokesperson. Well, the issue of these fake agencies everywhere. I don't know, but then all Nigerians are saying is give us a thorough investigation, and whoever that is involved because of the image of this country should be meant to face the wrath of the law.
Very true.
That's what it means, because the world is watching and it doesn't speak well for our nation. All right, more headlines from the Daily Times newspaper this morning. The big story, stop rehabilitating insurgents, integrating them into military. Senate cautions federal government. All right, this is a very serious matter. How would you integrate terrorists into the military? How would you send them, into the society without, I don't know, but then, especially into the military, we'll have a lot of people coming to leak intelligent informations. We've been having that problem. I know how many generals have gone down as a result of issues like that. But then I think if The Senate is cautioning the federal government it's moving the right direction. ABC demands a full access to El-Rufai for family lawyers medical team. All right, those are the headlines from the Daily Times newspaper this morning as we move to New Telegraph.
All right, now thank you so much, Ramsey. Now on the New Telegraph on page 8 above the nameplate, it says OPS to Senate approving 11 trillion naira revenue target for customs, tragic for investments. And before we get to the nameplate, it says report financial, professional service sectors emerging Nigeria's growth drivers. That's on page 8. And below the nameplate there on page 3, it says here, President can take over state police if abused, and that's from Barao. And the Star Story says, alleged misconduct, PSC punishes 35 officers, and that read you will find on page 4, 6, and 27. And on page 7 and 8, it says here, Kanu Sharia Court judge sent on compulsory retirement to refund 250,000 naira. CJN to new judges shun unsolicited gifts on necessary birthday parties. And that's from Kekere Ekun. And on page 31, it says here, FCT IRS new law empowers us to tax all taxable sources. And the writer says, law doesn't mandate it to probe income source. Okay. And the Star Story says xenophobia. Senate demands probe into attack on Nigerians in South Africa. Long overdue, I will say. And 3, 4, and 7 says here, wants protection for citizens in Rainbow Nation. Declines calls for FG to take over MTN, DSTV. I think that's a step in the right direction because you cannot throw us out of your country and you expect us to still patronize you. I don't understand.
That's true.
No, you must feel the heat.
That's true.
Now, Ghana defers Ramaphosa's visit over anti-migrant attack. Fantastic. And here he says on page 3 and 7, Red Chamber to Northern Governor military, stop integrating repentant terrorists. And the writer says here, raises the alarm over targeted killings of retired generals. Really, that's a very sad read. Sultan leads Northern monarchs, Islamic scholars in Kaduna peace meeting. And on page 7 it says 2027 coalition demands Christian deputy governor in Niger may seek alternative elsewhere. And below all of that it says Tinubu orders ICPC to probe PFIPC at DME collaborators. And the writer says presidency government institutions must be protected against impersonation. Senate, why we will not intervene. And it says alleged abuse of office, El-Rufai's trial stalled as ex-governor insists on new judge. And that's on page 4, 5, 6, and 27. And moving on now on the newspaper review segment. It says here on the New Telegraph, below that, it says here, that's on page 4, 5, and 27. Now, it says, hypertension, diabetes cases rising among young Nigerians, and that's from EFCC. And that's on page 27. You'll wonder why. Maybe people are thinking a lot. So many things are happening. Let's move to Daily Trust now.
All right, let's quickly look at the Daily Trust and see the headlines that we have on the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. On the Daily Trust newspaper this morning, we have some very striking headline beginning from the big story. The big story said 614,937 Nigerians killed, 2.2 million abducted in 1 year. All right, let's move from the Daily Trust and go to Nigerian Tribune.
All right, now in the Nigerian Tribune newspaper, it says here on the Nigerian Tribune above the nameplate, Tinubu inaugurates presidential working group on national policy bill. And the writer says Bajagbamila to head committee. Next to that, on the Nigerian Tribune, it says pressure mounts on abductors of Orire school children, and that's on page 4. It's long overdue. And below the nameplate, that's below the star story, that's on the star story says Tinubu orders ICPC to probe fake PFIPC. And close to that, we have some riders there. It gives Commission 30 days deadline, reports to be submitted to him. Agency to probe use of false government documents, opening of any bank account, source movement of funds. Bajagbamila threatens Adeyemi with 10 billion naira defamation suit. Why we won't dabble into controversy, and that's the Senate, and that really is on page 3. And on page 5, it says 11 trillion naira revenue target may scare cargoes from Nigerian ports. Stakeholders warns NAS. And on page 13, it says NBA rejects alleged AGF directives, insists election will hold as scheduled. On page 23, it says Tinubu's reforms working, support his re-election. Ekpomokpolo tells Nigerians. And below that, before we get to the health segment, it says El-Rufai's wife to Tinubu, my husband doesn't deserve this persecution. And on page 3, it says Senate warns stop to rehabilitation of terrorists. Okay. And then, of course, the health segment on the Nigerian Tribune says recreational drug, including cannabis, can cause stroke. And that's from study. And that you can see all read on page 30. Next is the Vanguard.
I think we can stop here because of our time. And of course, the Vanguard, this is the Vanguard. Let's just take just few headlines from the Vanguard. Above the nameplate, this one says that Tinubu orders FCPC to investigate PFIPC. All right, then the big story said insecurity. Halt rehab, try Boko Haram members. Senate tells federal government. The Senate is so particular today about integrating terrorists into the society, even into the army, which is, I don't know who came up with that idea, but then I think Senate is doing well. Then finally from the Vanguard newspaper, over 18 million Nigerians exposed to flooding, and this is coming from NIHSA as the one. All right, these are the headlines for you today on Global Morning. We urge you to pick a copy of any of these national dailies that you would want to go into. Would also like to let you know that Global Television has no editorial contribution to any of these newspapers. It is entirely that of the newspaper houses. Now, we'll take a quick break. After this break, we'll return for Social Boss with Ogochukwu Mobono.
In an age of breaking news, you need a trusted source that prioritizes accurate, factual, and unbiased reporting. This is AM News, and I am Ubong Usoro.
On global television, our news is rooted in verified and authoritative storytelling that keeps you educated, informed, and enlightened on all the issues that matter to you. I am Sadia Yakubu. This is Midday News.
You can trust our multi-platform news broadcast real-time and fast-check stories for all the big local and foreign headlines round the clock. I am Ramsey Enoch Agbo. This is News Express.
Our array of anchors delivers the news to our teeming viewers, breaking it down with context and perspective. This is News Cycle on Global Television. I am Anieti Patrick.
And the flagship news is your hub for the day.
At Witchtech Cables, we don't just make cables, we deliver excellence. Our products are built with advanced technology, trusted for their unmatched quality and durability. With a wide range of cables, swift delivery, and continuous innovation, we stay ahead of the market demand. We are proudly Nigerian, fully indigenous, yet world-class. Backed by a professional team, strong technical support, and a deep commitment to customer satisfaction. Witchtech Cables is more than a brand, it's a promise. Witchtech Cables, quality cables better than the best.
When social media speaks, we listen and we bring you the extra. It's your one-stop shop for trends, tweets, and the tea everyone's sipping on. Join the conversation, share your thoughts, and get that extra dose of what's shaking the internet.
And on issues making wave on social media to your doorstep.
Social Boss Extra, where the trend meets the talk, only on Global TV.
Good morning, Nigerians and viewers around the world. It's time to look at buzzing issues on social media. And today we're looking at the Abia State Police Command that says a 35-year-old woman has been arrested and will be charged with attempted murder after she was allegedly caught threatening a 12-year-old girl with a kitchen knife in Umuahia. Authorities says the victim was rescued following a swift police response. The Abia State Police Command has confirmed the arrest of a 35-year-old Moko Gift, an indigene of Imo State, over the alleged attempted murder of her 12-year-old niece, Miss Ebo Chimamanda. According to Public Relations Officer DSP Maureen Chinaka, the suspect was captured in a viral video allegedly assaulting the young girl while armed with the kitchen knife. Preliminary investigation revealed that the incident occurred on July 5th at IBB Housing Estate in Umuahia. Police says the suspect allegedly attacked the child after accusing her of failing to spread clothes before she left for the market. The police further disclosed that the suspect had allegedly subjected the victim to repeated physical abuse and had on several occasions threatened to kill her. Acting on credible intelligence, officers from the World Bank Divisional Police Headquarters responded promptly, rescued the girl, arrested the suspect, and recovered the kitchen knife allegedly during the incident, used during the incidents. The case has since been transferred to the State Criminal Investigation Department for further investigation. Police says the suspects will be charged to court for attempted murders once investigations are concluded. Let's take a look at that video.
Video, yeah.
Yeah, video now.
Is that's terrifying, dear. That's a horrible experience for any child. Well, I think the police, of course, who swung into action very fast. You know, I have been commending the Nigerian police, you know, for some time for swinging into action and making sure that justice is brought upon anyone who is seen committing any crime, and you know, no one is above the law at this point. I really feel bad. Well, this incident happened in the evening of July 5th, but yes, we found out that the arrest yesterday happened on the 7th of July. You know, it was a swift response. In less than few days, about 48 hours, they were already, you know, arrested. They've already arrested this lady, and I hope this young girl Chimamanda gets, you know, the justice she deserves. The first comment we are taking today is from Capital Mr. Josh. And Josh says, why do some women behave this way towards their mates? Why? Even if she did something wrong, is this the best way to reprimand her now? You know, we understand that. I think someone said to me sometime that the hardest set of people you can take care of is teenagers and also toddlers. These two T's. It's very difficult for you to take care of them, or you know, command them, or you know, make them do whatever it is you want them to do. But then there are different ways to actually work with them, and there are beautiful people. They are very sweet, so just know how to work with these people. If this person was your child, would you have actually used a knife to threaten to kill her or to cut off her neck? Honestly, let's reason like human beings, because a lot of persons no longer reason like human being as it is right now. Well, let's take the next comments coming from It's Marin, and Marin says, I don't blame anybody but the being that was standing there recording. You see such assault going on and you can't rush down there to save the poor maid. Where is your conscience and brotherly love? All right, so we are in, we are in the world of social media where everything has to be posted either for clouds or for content or for views, whatever it is. A lot of things are happening. So people just feel it is better if I take a picture or take a video and post it. Is going to draw attention to my page. But then again, let's even look at it from the other side. You have to be careful when it comes to things like this. That person is fully armed with a knife. You have to be very, very careful. If you are not strong enough to fight that lady or help, take the knife, seize the knife from her, then it is better you take a picture. At least that's an evidence. Then you send it to the right authorities. If this person hadn't made this video, to be very honest, these things will happen and it will just slide. No one is going to hear about it. So the video is highly needed in a very big way. If the police should come, if you even call the police or tell the police that this is what is happening, the person can lie if there is no video evidence. So yes, there is an advantage and disadvantage to it. If you know you're not strong enough to fight the lady, or take hold of the knife she's holding or whatever it is she's holding to harm that young girl, please do not do it. You can actually end your life right there. I've seen and I've also heard so many people say, they went to settle a fight and they end up being bruised or being hurt at the end of the day, or some of them even lose their life. So let's be very careful. We understand that you want to help, you want to be a very good citizen, you are human also, but let's be careful as to how we help. So the video actually brought about awareness. If you listen to what I was reading earlier, you could hear that this woman had already done this. She has been doing this to this lady, to this young girl for a long time, and this is supposedly be her niece. You can imagine if a young woman of 35-year-old can actually do that to her niece. I really do not know what is going to happen to a stranger when she gets hold of a stranger, you understand? Well, the third comment coming from Fikuna Demi, and Fikuna Demi says, child abuse runs wild in Nigeria because weak laws, poor enforcement, and cultural tolerance let abusers walk free. This latest knife attack on a maid in Umuahia shows the rot. Government must declare emergency, enforce harsh penalties, and protect kids properly, on the cycle destroys another generation. or this could destroy another generation. I get it, Fikuna Demi. I really appreciate whenever I see your comments. Yes, the government has to act upon it, but then again, let's even ask ourselves the right question. Where is our conscience? We always see this thing happen in the East. I'm sorry that I'm blaming the Easterners. I know it happens everywhere, but most times it's usually more on Eastern women. If you know, there's one culture, Fikuna Demi actually mentioned culture. There's one traditional culture that's in the East. When your child gets to a particular level, they send your child out. I think it used to be an old culture most times. Then they'll send your child out, you go live with somebody, they train you, they'll tell you that when you live with someone, it will help you, it's going to build you very well. But most times, parents don't even take their time to check how their children are being treated. Sometimes it's because of poverty. If you cannot mention it, poverty can actually lead to that, because you give birth to so much children and you do not know how to train them, because you can't even afford to pay their bills, feed them, and also send them to school. Then you scatter them around, maybe your siblings or cousins or extended relatives, and you want them to take care of your children, but at the same time, always try to check upon your children. If you want people to check upon or to train your children, check on them, know how they are doing. Let them talk to you. Don't just listen to their voices via phone call. Talk to them, not video call. Go there, pay them a surprise visit. Talk to your children, ask them deep questions, because sometimes these kids shy away from questions because they've been, I don't know, their mindset have been arranged in a way that if people ask them questions, they don't even know how to reply. They don't know how to respond. They're scared. They don't want to say something so that they don't go back and get beaten anymore. So they just keep quiet. When you ask them deep questions, they tend to keep quiet. But if you as a parent, draw them closer, ask them deep questions, they'll definitely speak. So the first thing here is, first of all, please do not give birth to children you know you cannot train. If you know you can only train 2, give birth to 2. Do not start giving birth to 6, 7, 8, not with what we are facing right now in Nigeria, please. It's too much. If you are not earning so much to take care of those children, then you have no right to bring children into the world to let them suffer. Number 2, and you know that you've actually made that mistake of giving birth to so much and you cannot train them. Make sure that instead of sending your child to a relative that can, abuse them, at home, just put them in a way where they can learn a skill. Put them somewhere, carpentry, tailoring, hairdressing. Put them somewhere, look for a way to pay. And these things don't even cost so much for them to learn these skills. I remember there was a time someone said she wanted to learn a skill, and what the woman told her to bring was, I think, bottles of a crate of mineral, then granules, garden egg, and just a few things just to bless her and make sure she start working. So it's just very small. Make sure that they learn a skill, monitor them, and that's the best thing you can give to your children. Do not send them out. Then for the people, guardians that they send a child to you to take care of your child. The child can be a maid to you, or maybe your sister's children, your nephew, your nieces, whatever it is. Please have the heart of God. Always think about it. If it is your child, what would you do? Would you allow someone maltreat your child that way? Holding a knife to the neck of a poor child that's just less than 20 or 18 years old, that is child abuse. And I thank God that, yes, the law is definitely going to, get its course, and I'm sure that she's going to receive justice as usual. The police are already into it, all right? The Abia State Police Command has assured the public that justice will be pursued in the case, while urging residents to promptly report all cases of child abuse and domestic violence to appropriate authorities. Well, this is all we have for you today on Social Pulse on Global Morning. And yes, I'll be leaving the hands of the Global Morning crew as they usher us into the discussion section of Global Morning. Good morning once again, Nigerians and viewers around the world. I am Ogochukwu Mobuno, so stay with us and bye for now.
When social media speaks, we listen and we bring you the extra. It's your one-stop shop for trends, tweets, and the tea everyone's sipping on. Join the conversation, share your thoughts, and get that extra dose of what's shaking the internet.
And on issues making wave on social media to your doorstep.
Social Buzz Extra, where the trend meets the talk, only on Global TV.
In an age of breaking news, you need a trusted source that prioritizes accurate, factual, and unbiased reporting. This is AM News, and I am Ubong Usoro.
On global television, our news is rooted in verified and authoritative storytelling that keeps you educated, informed, and enlightened on all the issues that matter to you. I am Sadia Yakubu. This is Midday News.
You can trust a multi-platform news broadcast, real-time and fast-check stories for all the big local and foreign headlines round the clock. I am Ramsey Enoch Agbo. This is News Express.
Our array of anchors delivers the news to our teeming viewers, breaking it down with context and perspective. This is News Cycle on Global Television. I am Anieti Patrick.
And the flagship news is your hub for the day's most engaging stories. This is News Prime, and I am Jumai Manson.
Did you miss any of our news rounds? No worries. Catch up at 10 p.m. and midnight, 7 days of the week. I am Mukhtar Kasim.
Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. We're active across all social media platforms at Global TV NG.
Thank you everyone for being part of Global Morning today. That was a very wonderful one from Social Buzz. But then, I don't know why people will have to maltreat their words the way this woman just did. But the most important thing is the fact that arrest has been made, and of course, thorough investigation is ongoing. And sometimes you'll be forced to ask questions. Who are the onlookers? The compound where it happened, was there no one around? Who did the video? Why will you be watching for that kind of thing to happen? What if she had succeeded? Well, that's by the way. Many still going on that we don't know. But then if you hear or see something, say something. All right, we'll get into the first conversation right here as we look at the security situation. The insecurity is getting too much. Just like a joke, sometimes you will feel, well, it's going to reduce a little bit, but then it's increasing by the day. We're doing an evaluation of the security situation in the country. Before now, it used to be the northeast. Then you talk about some other parts in the north. Gradually, it came to the north central. Now, nobody is safe in Nigeria. What do we do? What is the way forward? We have a security expert who is going to be talking to us, and he's also a political analyst, and we will look at this issue together. The person of Kelvin Fineface. Kelvin Fineface will be joining us via Zoom this morning as we talk about the insecurity situation, doing an evaluation of the rising security cases in the country. Thanks for joining us, Kelvin.
So as my people don't get to think I've actually changed my name.
All right, it's good to have you join us.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, let's get into the conversation. Are you worried about the security situation in Nigeria this very time?
Of course, nobody who believes in this country won't be worried. If you've been in the country for the past, I must say for the past 12 to 15 years, we've been having from one insecurity situation to the other, which borders on religious interests, ethnic interests, and now what we are having majorly borders on, economic interests, which with a type of political sabotage, if I must put it that way. We currently have a very growing insecurity situation that I would call a going concern because of the economic, benefit it gives to those who perpetrate these acts, and how you also have collaborators from people in government to security agencies to politicians and traditional institution rulers, religious leaders, all getting involved in the type of insecurity that we have currently. Even individuals also, in some cases, kidnapping themselves, requesting for ransom. So that's a major concern to any given individual, myself inclusive.
The issue of kidnap, you said something very vital. Some persons have said this security situation is as a result of political undertone. Some persons said, well, it's economic undertone. Some persons are responsible. And there is a saying that if security situation gets serious within a particular period, then something is wrong. From the north, like a joke, came to the north central and spread to other parts of Nigeria. Is it that our authorities are not doing what they are supposed to do?
It's not like the authorities are not doing what they're supposed to do. Understand that insecurity creates a type of economic benefit for those in government and those outside of government with their collaborators, which is that, it is in the place of insecurity, you have the warmongers seeing it as a major business with which to make good money because they have to be suppliers. Those who will supply the weapons, who will supply the other materials, gears and kits that these officers and men will need in the field. And there's also that aspect where, by political consideration, it's also fueled by the opponents. This government, in part of their confession, some of them, Baraje had told us on national TV how they imported men, from outside of the country, militia groups, in order to forestall or whatever they thought it was, to create some kind of, mayhem during the admission of Jonathan to Buhari, that if the election had gone the other way around, these men were brought in to cause insecurity. We also listened to, accusations coming from those in government to state how they brought in people during the last administration, to cause this. And we also listened to some of these so-called terrorists and bandits who had also claimed that they were armed by people in government. So we can't rule out the political sabotage angle. But I think that was with the current administration and the current party in government. They were those who truly had, taken that to a different level. Because the Chibok girls, kidnapping, orchestrated by the group, amplified also internationally in order to weaken the government of the day at that time. And we also now have the situation that the build up to make the government look so bad so as to be able to weaken the support of the people. And now this administration has also claimed, because I listened to the president, the Tinubu, when he made that statement in one of his encounters, that his opponents were making it, an issue, trying to destabilize his government by creating more of insecurity. Truth be told, the government on our part hasn't done really so well as to manage, the insecurity of the country, because it also gives them the opportunity to carry out some of these operations to be seen as those who are doing something good. I'll give you an instance. There was a kidnap in Niger State. And after the children were kidnapped, 300 plus. You look at the number. You ask yourself, how was it that easy, so possible to kidnap these kids and move them to the location where they took them? They finally got them out. It was now immediately said the president was doing so well, never want to allow this to happen. So sometimes these setups are done to make the president look like he was doing so well, It means it's an internal arrangement. So kidnap can take place, and they will not go and find a way to release them so as to make the person look like someone who, kids were kidnapped in that number. Unlike when it happened in the previous administration and nothing was done, they weren't able to release the kids. But for him, he was able to release the kids so that they can give him credit. So those things can be arranged. Do you get? And that is why you find out that they don't get to follow through with the situation, because you ask yourself, how were they kidnapped and how were they released? How much was paid? We don't have the follow up of that, the story that comes with it. How many arrests have been made so far after all of that took place? So when you don't see those things, you just know that there's some kind of connivance. Now, but the rate at which we have insecurity across the country, from the north to the south, east, and west, there's no part of the country that doesn't experience insecurity. In fact, currently in Abuja now, with the new commissioner of police, I must give him kudos. Is on the forefront fighting insecurity. But there are other areas that are not really touched. The one chance issue is there prevalent. You have some kind of kidnappings taking place also as a major business, and you can't even at some point in the city drive through. Now the minister on his part is also, we've seen some growing improvements in terms of street lights, in some areas nobody really seen street light before. As at the time I was, robbed and stabbed, there were no street lights, active street lights in the area at Mapushi. But now we're seeing some, improvement. So we can give them some kind of credit. But with the amount of funds they have at their disposal, it means they could have done far better than what has been done so far. For them to spend 8 trillion outside of budget, it means they would have actually done so well with that money to improve the lives of people, improve infrastructure, it create enabling environment for businesses to thrive. Because when businesses thrive, what it does is it also reduce criminality, because people get fully employed and busy and empowered, so they won't have the time to go think about evil. And so the sabotage thing will be limited, because then it's easier. Now we also have another challenge, which is the fact that we lack accurate data as a people, as a country. Only until recently, NIMC, which is NIMC, the National Identity Management Commission, has been able to come up with a good number of registered members in the country, citizens, which is about 130 something million, right? Which is something commendable, that we now know, okay, we are about 130 some persons captured in our data. With the new act, with the new law, the new act signed into law, which it means that we're going to be having a unified data. If we're able to get our data right, clean data right, then it's now easier to truly police the states effectively. So it's now easier to be able to monitor and trace and track, crime, in order to forestall and to inhibit. It's not easier for intelligence to actually work. Even though there's a downside to it, once we have unified data, it means that the citizens can really function well, because then just be ready to be paying high taxes. That's number one. Number two, be ready to be, to be disincentivized in such a way that you cannot function very well by the time we have a unified data, just like you find in China and in other advanced countries that utilize that against the people.
Kelvin Fineface.
Yes.
State policing, and do you think it has come to stay, and will it stand the test of time?
The state policing thing is it's something that we actually need a long time ago. I'm trying to understand the modalities on how, because I've not been able to lay on the gazetted document. It's a risk to read document that you just find online, because sometimes it can be concocted. We have mischief makers who enjoy creating some kind of confusion, sending some fake news to distort information. So once I lay hands on the gazetted document, I know for a fact that I'll be able to give an informed opinion. But from what has been shared so far, from the order that we've seen, I'm skeptical about its implementation. Because state police is something that we need. I mean, which also falls under community policing. Why do we have to have federal police and not giving the state the power to function? But if you look at our political landscape, the politicians are so petty that the little power they have, they want to use that against their citizens. We find even with this current situation, as a country, as citizens having the national flag, we are shot dead, injured, massively injured. And so imagine what will now happen when state police comes in and the state governor do not like his opponents. What happens with it? So we can look at it from the good side and ensure that. Can you hear me?
We
So
can.
we can look at it from the good side, yeah, and ensure that the appointment and the dismissal of the commissioner of police in this state should not be done by the governor alone. Should be done with the governor, the civil society group, the state house of assembly, and so that we now know that the ability to hire and fire is not in the hands of one man alone, like we have in the federal. And that's why you find out that the IG of police can tell you that he's loyal to the president instead of loyal to the country. Or the other service chiefs will claim that they are loyal to the president instead of loyal to the country. Their loyalty is supposed to go to the federal government first. And in the state of state police, the loyalty of the commissioner of police should go to the state first, not the governor. The governor is only but, the servant leader who is only there for a short time. So he's not supposed to be the one to hire and fire. And that's some of the things that I've heard. I mean, I've seen some of the documents that the governor will have to, be the person. No, there has to be a civil society combination, appointment that you have the State House of Assembly and the civil society. So there has to be a public recruitment process of qualified men and women that will be given that opportunity to serve, and also rotational deployment, which means if somebody is from Karanamoda is not supposed to be there in Karana, so there should be rotational deployment. Then you also give room for people who are residents of the state, that they are live in the state, pay taxes in the state for 5 to 10 years, should also be given the opportunity to be employed, so that there'll be a balance.
To financiers, individuals who sponsor insecurity in Nigeria. Do you think the government is doing enough to probe them or put them behind bars? Of course, we heard what the United States of State Services came up with their analysis and says we have about 4 prominent individuals who are behind this issue of banditry, kidnapping, and the rest of its kind in Nigeria. What's your own opinion, or will I say assessment of this?
Well, during Buhari's time, late Buhari's time, with Dubai, UAE came up with the list of terrorist financiers, and nothing was done. Their names were there. Some of them were even given appointments. We have a country where I would call it a cobweb system. When people get into crime, they spread their loot, the opportunities to people in government. That is why you find it easier for kidnappers, to have, friends in the security agencies who protect them. In the case of this guy that was what's his name in Lagos, the kidnapping kickpin. I mean, he has I am mighty. We've seen also a situation recently. One of those guys who are involved in internet fraud with the former IGP and all of that. So you just know that financiers of terrorism somewhere have their hands in government. Either they also have people that they've recommended for employment, or we have a country where employment is done by who allocation, because once the window of employment comes in, the president has his own allocation. The state, the senate president, the governors, all of them have their allocations. And in most cases, those they recommend for employment are their political supporters. Some of them are thugs. Some of them are those who have been involved in some criminalities, and they don't do proper vetting. And so you cannot comfortably think that the government will go ahead to prosecute those that have been mentioned. You find out that some of them that I mentioned are linked to those in government and have been major financiers of people in government. So they will find a way to excuse themselves and maybe find a scapegoat to use for that. The guy who was a kidnapper in Taraba that killed some police officers. You notice the day the police went to go and pick him up. We have military people who, foiled that operation. In the news, we saw that until he was finally arrested and prosecuted and put in the prison. We don't know if he's still truly serving, because you also have the correctional officers who also from time to time compromise. Some of them have been kidnapped. I mean, some of them have been arrested and prosecuted. So there's a cobweb of corruption that goes down with with the country. And so it's difficult to say if they would successfully do anything about it.
Issue of collaboration now, as it has to do with the US and the federal government of Nigeria collaborating. How important is that, and do you think that will be fruitful? Because some Nigerians are thinking right now that the process is slow paced, because when there was that strike on the 25th of December, all right, a lot of Nigerians were excited. But since after then, we've not seen more strikes and felt more impact of the collaboration between the federal government of Nigeria and, of course, the United States government. What do you think is going on as a security expert? And do you think this collaboration would solve the problem of insecurity in Nigeria? Kelvin?
Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you on that. I don't think it will solve insecurity in Nigeria. Don't forget, America and the West in general are capital intensive people. The type of capitalism they operate that if without the money they don't do anything. So if they don't see any economic benefits, they don't move ahead with the things. When the strike took place, there were insinuations that Donald Trump would have done what he did in Venezuela. And so the president's handlers, were quick to go lobby the president of the United States. We heard the amount of money that was spent to lobby to quell, and there was a change. We also saw Remi Tinubu, in the U.S. For the prayer breakfast with the president, and we listened to Donald Trump giving some kind of glowing tribute, to acknowledge our presence and all of that, claiming it was about. Those are all lobbying moves, not to quell America from doing what it is. And once the money is paid, nothing can be done, because what America wants to do simply is to create the fear so as to make the country to pay or buy weapons and do those things. We saw that also during the time of Buhari. Look, Americans can help if they want to help. But at what cost are they helping is the question. So if we're not willing to pay the price, that is expected, the help will be delayed. And also, you should also know that some of the crises we're having in the Northeast, in Nigeria in general, they, by their own reports, we saw during the time of the Doge, during the time of Elon Musk, how USAID had sponsored terrorism in Nigeria, financing some acts of terrorism that were taking place in Nigeria through USAID, right? USAID. So they've been sponsoring some of this group. They've been ensuring that we have this, insecurity in some way, somewhere or the other. So as in turn, what Americans do most cases, and in the West in general, is that they come to your backyard, set up the fire, and come to the front to sell the fire extinguisher, which is a Machiavellian approach. It's basically what they do. So we should not be hoping so well for them to do magic. Rather, as a people, we can rally ourselves around to ensure things are done right. And this is how it starts. It starts by the citizen taking ownership of our political processes. Are you registered to vote? And do you know why you should vote? Because the voter's card is the most powerful tool in a democracy. It's the only tool that legitimizes the office and the occupier of that office. So if we know this principle and we galvanize ourselves, we want to ensure that those who go into office are those who truly have the capacity to rule or to lead us right. And that we begin to have the right social contract. But unfortunately, Nigerians don't participate. The largest party that never participates in any election are those who stay at home. The last election, we saw about 68 million plus people never came out to vote. And those who came out to vote, the majority of them were disappointed because their vote never really counted. But that does not mean that they should not come out to vote. So what I want to suggest is, if we want to make a change, if we want to see that Nigeria gets better, we'll reduce insecurity, let's get involved in the political process. Be a member of a political party or a civil society group and ensure that those who are coming out to vote. So let's not be that it's between the devil and the deep blue sea. That is part of what we always have had in the past. I mean, look at our recruitment process. To be the president of this country, only you need to have a school start and do not even have to show any proof. But to be an inspector of the Nigerian police, you need to be able to have a school, a first degree or an HND. That is a misnomer. That should not ever be at all. Let's be sure that our recruitment process is right, so that we know that we have the right people in government who are not going to be afraid, who do not have, who have not paid some form of what do you call it in America, so as not to be persecuted, and so they cannot even go to America, and now they are not the president of the country, and so because of that they have to compromise, our territorial integrity. So we can have the right people in government, and things can go right, and we'll be able to have the right security. Of course, there won't be 100%, security, but I mean, there will be a major, just like you find in some advanced countries like in Norway, Switzerland, and Sweden, and all the rest, other places where you have relatively peace and and minimal crime taking place.
Or you think the armed forces have not explored to help curb this issue of insecurity in Nigeria? Just practical measures that you think we've not really explored that can help nip this particular menace in the bud in Nigeria?
One of the first things we need to do to look at our welfare system. What is the remuneration that is given to those officers and men in the field? We have to review it. And it was suggested even on your set some time ago that the minimum wage that those with arms that works for government should have should be something that the average councillor have in Nigeria. That is the minimum that we should look at. Number two, we want to be sure that yeah. So number two, we want to be sure that the recruitment process is considered adequately, which is that somebody said something. There's a feedback from your MCRO. So the recruitment process needs to be looked at. Do you understand? Currently, we have a mismatch recruitment process. So even if you don't have the qualification, for the fact that you have a godfather, you can actually get it. But let's do the right profiling. Let's be sure those who are going to be in these agencies truly are qualified to be there psychologically and do not have any kind of thing in the cupboard, so to speak. Number three, we want to be sure that where these officers and men will be, that the right deployment is made and the right accommodation is provided, so the right welfare system is provided. Number four, that as a country, we want to be sure we have the 4+1 principle that often will always want to share. These are values, that there's justice, there's equity, there's equality, there's fairness, and there's accountability, which means that whoever breaches the law is tried according to the law. Justice must be served, it must be seen to be served. Number two, that there's fairness in the approach of administration, which means the president will not have to favor just his clan people alone or his tribal people alone. If you look at the current appointments that's in the country, it's tilted to one side, and which is the president's, tribal interest. Number three, there will be equity in the approach. So there'll be equitable distribution of our commonwealth. We do not just have to look at one side. If the people in Kano said they don't want alcohol, they should not get profit from any alcohol, tax as a people. And there has to also be a change in how the country is governed. You cannot introduce Sharia in a state where you have a mix of people of different faiths and impose Sharia on those who are not, Muslims. It's wrong. Our constitution should be sacrosanct. No other law should be above the constitution. We are supposed to be a secular state, which means that you practice your religion privately. It's not supposed to be imposed on people. So if we do those things, we'll be able to see that we can reduce, because sometimes the reason why you have insecurity in the north that took place as a result of religion, which is the Boko Haram, came in and said no more on Western education. Then you now have other groups, splinter groups springing out of it. It's because of the Sharia infusion, and it gives these people the impetus to think that it has to be imposed on everybody. And so we have to look at it from that perspective. Say, look, if a state should not impose Sharia on those who are not Muslims. Sharia should be only for the Muslims. Yes, it's only time for the Muslims. And it cannot be a statewide thing because that state is not completely a Sharia state, to speak, because you have people who are actually practicing non-religion. They are Christians and they are other non what they call it, Christian people in that state. And so to speak, if it wasn't for the Osman Danfodio jihadist movement, some of those places were not Islamized states as displayed. So we have to look at from that. Then you also look at the other factor, which is that everybody in government needs to be accountable. We need to be sure that those who are saddled with the responsibility of managing our commonwealth are accountable. What is their wealth and how has they been able to grow over time? So we look at them to be sure that they are really accountable and ensure that the country enjoys the wealth that we truly have. So everybody gets to receive what they need to have. If we keep doing things as we are doing it, we'll not make any meaningful progress. But if we look at the 4+1 principle that I just mentioned, justice, equity, fairness, equality, and accountability, then we can have an egalitarian society that will be, good for all, and minimal insecurity will take place. We'll just have pockets crimes here and there.
Thank you. Thank you, Kelvin. Now, on the National Daily this morning, while we're doing the newspaper review, I saw that the Senate, all right, was cautioning the federal government as it has to do with reintegration of repentant, all right, terrorists, especially into the military. What's your perception? What do you think about that?
Very wrong. Very, very wrong. What I think the government should have done was to put them through a transitory process. Now they have repented in quote. I think the coinage repentance is simply used to douse. I think it's also because of what happened in the south, where Yaradua, gave amnesty to the militants in the south. So the tendency for the North also want to have this. There's this petty comparison thing that takes place between both faiths, Islam and Christianity. Even though we have people practices Ifa in Nigeria, they are not recognized. The constitution is supposed to give them provision, but only those two faiths are recognized and are sponsored by the states, by the federal government. Now, those that claim to be repentant have also caused some kind of havoc in the build-up of, containment of insecurity in the country. What I believe should have been done is this: when either you arrest them or they drop their arms and repent, you take them through a 2 years process. You debrief them, get to understand the workers, make them be visibly busy in the camps that you will create to simulate how the operations were. Then use such simulation to train your officers and men that will go back to the field. Do not reintegrate them back into the military. Wrong. Let them be support groups outside of the military, providing a type of intelligence. Send them in, retrain them and train them and put them back into the society, not back in the society, but in the field to gather intelligence, but not as military officers and men on one side, not even as vigilante. No, you do not want to give them, without creating transitions. It's like somebody, you brought in a wild animal, like lion, for instance, and you start giving that lion cooked meat. You think the lion will adjust immediately and will not see fresh meat and will not attack? You're wrong. We've always seen lions that have been, in cages, killing the caregivers or something, because the tendency for fresh blood is an innate behavior. So this young man have been so indoctrinated to think that the acts were the best act they were doing to glorify the God that they serve. And you cannot just integrate them like that. There has to be a transition, minimum of 2 years transition, so as they be able to declutter their heads and take them to another phase before they can reabsorb into the society. But if you don't do that and you just spend 2-3 months, share the money because some contractor is there collecting money as reintegration, with the people that have been indoctrinated by religious belief. It doesn't turn automatic. No, it has to go through a very long process. For me, it's minimum of 2 years. It could be more, but minimum of 2 years with the right, indoctrination to re-indoctrinate them into what you want them to do. So you bring the preachers, the clerics that will come speak from the different perspective. You bring the other the people psychologists who will come reprofile and do the right things to get them out of that place because some of them have been so drug addicted that they don't think straight any longer. And so the slightest opportunity they relapse and they go back to their old ways, which gives them some form of power. So the processes has to be long to get them out of that situation. But I don't subscribe to the reintegration that is ongoing and the so-called coinage as repentant. They are not repentant. They are devil people that are not supposed to be there. We're supposed to even have, let me add, we're supposed to even have a separate, incarceration place. So you build a new prison, correctional facility only for them, designed only for them. And just like you find it somewhere that Naib is doing up there, so you have a secluded area designed for them, isolated place, the total solitary confinement. Take them 2 years for them to be in that incarceration until they have psychologically, renewed before you can bring them back to the society. I mean, I like what Naib is doing up there in this country. Has made the country so safe and more developed. I think we should apply the same principle with these terrorists, in quote, not those they call bandits, because banditry doesn't really take place in Nigeria. What takes place most cases is genocide in most of those places and high-level terrorism.
High rate of insecurity in Nigeria, and of course the 2027 election just around the corner. What's your take about the turnout on that day? Let's just say a projection. What's your take? Do you think voters' apathy will emerge, or people will just overweight and just come out and do the needful when it comes to voting the right candidate of their choice?
Voter apathy is as a result of government's failure to show sincerity and the approach to our political processes, especially with the body responsible for that. If the Independent National Electoral Commission do not show forth that they are sincere with the approach, if they keep delisting, registering political parties to favor the president's interest, they frustrate opponents, opposition to get ground, then of course that will put our party. If the president's statements alludes to the fact that he has won the election before winning the election, then of course people will not want to come out and vote. But here's my take, here's my advice to Nigerians, especially the eligible registered voters and those who are going to be eligible. Since there's an extension of the voter registration, please don't just register to vote. Go register where you know that going to vote is within a walkable distance to where you live. The mistake a lot of us have done in the past is to register to vote without understanding the logistic challenge. So a lot of people during the election could not go to their voting unit because there was curfew, no movement of vehicles. So you're restricted to within the radius of your voting unit. So a lot of people could not go out to vote. A lot of people could not also travel to go and vote because they didn't know that it was not going to be possible to travel on the day of election. A lot of people calculated cost of going back to get registered because they could not meet up with the financial. Yes. Did you say something? Somebody is talking in the background. So they did not go out, they were able to travel back to their localities because of economic challenges. So my advice is that wherever you find yourself and you know that you might not have the economic capacity to travel to your village, please stay where you are and register within the units close to you. Find out from the INEC website, it's there, INEC, the CVRO website, and register in a place where you know you can look. I have a voting unit in my estate. I am moving my voting unit from where I used to live to my new place. So you can change your location. So people should go out and register where they know they can easily walk to go and vote. Not places where they can drive to because they might have difficulty in doing so. There's what they call the technical rigging approach that people in government oftentimes will utilize, and this party in government are very known for it. So they want to register where it's easier for you to walk in to go and vote. That's number one. Number two, move your voting location. If you're registered in the past, go check and to see if your voter card is still valid. Then you move it to where it's easier for you to do. I'm doing the same thing because I'm moving to the new location, so I'm going to do the same thing. Number three, you want to be sure that you start asking the right questions. As eligible voters, let's not be sentimental. Let's be more practical, pragmatic in the approach. What are the social contracts that we need to have with politicians? Let's put them out. The basic things that we need. See, governance is the most easiest thing to do, but difficult to start. For people who are sincere, it's very easy to do, but those who are insincere, it's difficult to start. And so we need to begin to ask the right questions. We deserve much more than we are giving. Not to be asked to go and sell Akara and Kulukli and Agbado and the rest of them. We can do better. If the enabling environment is created, Nigerians are people who truly are not lazy. That's why we will go outside of the country, that we have a functional system. We thrive, we pray less, and we thrive more. But because we're in a country nothing really works, the religious bodies are made up to pray more and work less and expect miracles to take place. So election is coming, 2027. Please go register. Let's reduce the voter apathy that we see. Let's have faith that things can be done right. If more people come out to vote, it'll be difficult for the government in power to rig or any other party to rig. But because there are less people that got the last election in FCT, I was an observer and I went to about 16 polling units. Turn up in the polling unit that you have 20 people, we only have 2 people that came out to vote. Where you have 60, you have only 4 people that came out to vote, which was or 11 in some places out of 100 and something. It was a very bad turnout. And I can understand to some degree because they believe that their votes will not count because the Minister of FCT, Nyesom Wike, had shown that, yes, their vote will not count. But I believe that if more people had come out to vote, their vote would have counted because then they would say no. But if you have 2 people there, they can't do much if there are people there who are going to suppress them. So more people should come out to vote because if we have more people that come out to vote, let's say we have about 60 to 80 million people that comes out to vote. Guess what will happen? They cannot change the results. Currently, we have about 93 million plus registered voters. If I have 80% of that comes out to vote, and they vote rights based on their conscience and not by ethnic or religious sentiments, not by political affiliation, but by voting rights, which means even if you have support for people in APC, you look at a candidate that is in NDC and say this candidate is good, you vote that candidate instead of voting your own party candidate you know that it's not doing right, that will not provide the right services that you expect. If somebody has not done well in 3-4 years, then they don't think he can do any magic. The question is that if he comes back, what difference? Will he stay after 4 years again? So if they say that the president should come back again, after 4 years, what happens? Will he still stay again, or you have to go back home? If he has to go back home, then he should go back home now. It's better for him to go back home. So let's give a chance to other people to come in and see what they can do. But let the people let the people more educated. So press has to do a lot of work by educating and enlightening the general public on the do's and don'ts that is expected. Once we know these things, people will be, and I blame National Orientation Agency for failing to do their job in enlightening the general public on what is expected. And that's why we have, more voter apathy.
Prince, you spoke about National Orientation Agency, you spoke a lot about the media doing their job, but do you think there is more to it than creating this awareness when it comes to going out to get your PVC? Do you think more needs to be done, and in what ways do you think you can get the public aware with getting your PVC, which is very important, which is your right, which is your power for the upcoming 2027 election?
One of the core responsibilities of INEC, Independent National Electoral Commission, is voter education. There are funds, there are budgeted funds for it, which means that they are closest to registered voters in order to pick up your PVCs, in order to, to how to vote, what needs to be done. It's their core responsibility. But where national registration comes in is that There are those who have not registered to vote. We don't even know that they are qualified to register to vote. Because in some cases, it is often seen that voter registration is done by religious sentiment because either you belong to a particular sect or something, or that ethnic sentiment. So you find that in the North, there's always that mass mobilization for people to go and register to vote, and somebody or some persons will have the voter's card after the voting is done. Then during the election, they are not given to go and stand to vote. That is a form of rigging, which should never be encouraged. Because the people are not well educated, not well enlightened. They do not know that the voter's card is their sole rights to own. They thought that somebody will give them transport money or will mobilize transport or will mobilize food is the one that's supposed to have a voter's card. So we've seen that in the North happen in most cases. Now in the South, we've also seen this same thing happening in the last election in Osun. In Ekiti. We saw where voters' cards were handed over to voters, which puts to play that it was those who went to vote were not those who truly were registered to vote. Now, they ask you for palliative, they want to give palliatives, for instance. They ask for your voter's V number. They ask for your NIN number. How does that relate? How do giving you palliative requires you bring your V number and your NIN number? That is what the current government is doing. With their so-called empowerment, renewable empowerment, they're doing, they're collecting V numbers. So the question comes to mind that, oh, what are they doing this for? It's simple. So that they'll be able to now utilize that to give more votes to themselves during the time of election. So NLA, National Electoral Agency, can do much more by educating the general public to know the power of the voter's card. A few years back, I started an advocacy group campaign with the group I called Youth Reawaken for Sustainable Change. Now, this Youth Reawaken for Sustainable Change was designed to educate the Nigerian public to understand the power of the voter's card. And I approached some religious bodies to say, look, we need to educate the people to know the importance of the voter's card, that the voter's card is the only powerful tool, is the only legitimate tool that legitimizes the office of the elected and the occupier of that office. The voter's card is the only tool that legitimizes that office. Without the voter's card, there won't be office of the president, because then it's no longer called the office of the president, it's now elected office. So we need to educate the public to understand the power that the voter has, that the voter is a kingmaker and not supposed to give his vote just anyhow. Not collect 5,000. I saw a young lady displaying 15,000 that she collected to go and vote for the party in government in Ekiti State. And I felt so sad because she didn't understand. She thought that that's what it's all designed for, to collect palliatives. Palliatives don't sustain anybody, but they don't know. It is the place of NOA to do that job. INEC place is to be able to educate those who are registered through their database to say, look, this is what is expected, this is how it should go, this is how to educate them the processes for collection, for voting processes and all of that, what they need to do, their rights. Nigerians don't even know, the electorate doesn't even know that there's a provision in the Nigerian constitution that gives them power to recall representatives in the State House of Assemblies and National Assembly, which in turn will also give the power to impeach the president as is now failing. Now, we have a situation currently at hand. Through World Bank, we now realize that Nigerian government has spent 8 trillion, 2% of our budget, outside of budgetary provisions, which is a criminal offense by the constitutional provision. Because anything done outside of the budget is a criminal offense, which means the president is not supposed to be the president again. He's supposed to have been impeached by now. But because the electorate is not asking the right questions, have not called their representatives to order by starting a recall process. If we start a recall process, guess what? They will sit up to call the president to question, come and explain to the House, the National Assembly, why such amount of money was spent. Nobody has actually called the president because the electorate is not active. That is where voter education comes into play. That's where national registration comes into play. But because the president is one who hires and fires, even the man in the National Registration Agency will not do anything. He will want to do anything that will favor the president alone. Every agency of government, ministry, the department, and agencies of government basically working to favor the president's return. That's what they are doing, which is wrong. That's why that's where the education comes into play. So we need to change all of that. Do you understand? So I mean, that's my take on that.
I'm sure you're aware of the xenophobic attack. I'm sure you are aware of the xenophobic attack in South Africa and the evacuation going on. The evacuees are now in Nigeria, and as I speak to you now, there is an aircraft in Johannesburg waiting to bring more people to Nigeria. And Nigeria has been faced, all right, with a lot of security situations, insecurity here and there. What do you think the government needs to do? Because number one, some persons will tell you people go into this kidnapping, banditry, terrorism for economic reasons, like you said, all right, maybe because of poverty, some were conscientized, some were forced and all of that, some are criminally minded. Now, these people are coming into the country. What do you think the government needs to do? Number one, to ensure they are protected. Number two, to ensure no one be enticed or conscientized into this menace.
Seeing today, it's not only happening in South Africa. There are xenophobic attacks also happening in Nigeria. Yeah, we have. We know that there are tribal, issues going on. People asking a particular tribe to leave their states and all of that. So let's look in what first. If someone from the south cannot comfortably live in the north and is being asked to go back to his state, or someone from the north cannot even live in the south and being asked to go back to his state, then that's a concern that we should look at. It means that the government had truly failed across boards, local, state, and federal, had truly failed in ensuring that the enabling environment is created to have citizens of a nation. So we have not been able to develop to that level. Now, for our brothers and sisters that have currently been evacuated from South Africa, let's look at the history. What is going on in South Africa, it's one of the kinds that will be happening in other countries, because we've seen in Kenya, there has been demand, in Uganda, demand for Nigerians to leave, some Nigerians to leave. Some Nigerians that do well, you notice that the pursuit for xenophobic attacks in South Africa is targeted to some areas, because there are still people in the country who are, as Nigerians that are still in the country, who are well placed in the medical field, in other some strategic areas, they've not been asked to leave. And so we should look at it that
is trying to do the Nigeria thing. We talked about that this morning. Maybe it's raining where he is, probably, sure. And of course the network started breaking. As soon as he established connection again, we'll get him in. Now, he was trying to do an explanation of people, because whether you like it or not, human beings can be good, they can be bad, some can be ugly in their actions, in what they do. And of course, some persons, we said a few days ago that these people are coming into Nigeria. No one knows what's next. A lot of them don't know what's next. No, they left their belongings there. Even though Nigeria is talking about sanction, and of course what to do against the South African government, and all of that. These people that are coming in, how are they going to start their life? What's the arrangement on ground? We are aware that there is documentation. And not apart from terrorism, we have banditry, we have kidnapping.
Yes, we do.
Just yesterday we saw that 2.2 trillion has been raped by these people just within a year. And you can see that a lot of people have taken this kidnapping and banditry as their job or something, as what they do. You know, people are going into it because of the benefit. Then sometimes you'll be forced to ask questions. Some of these people involved in this kidnapping and banditry, how do they look like? Do they really look like the money they are collecting is reflecting on their life or their well-being? These are questions that we should be asking. Then come to talk about these people coming from South Africa. We've heard severally, though not too rampant in South Africa, but in other parts of the world, in other countries where Nigerians are found, we've heard cases of, well, this person is being deported because of maybe one case or the other. This person is incarcerated, this person is in prison, and all of that because of one notorious activity or the other in those countries. Now, these people are coming into Nigeria now. They don't have, for now, I don't know how much they have, apart from Uzodinma, who said he's going to give those who are Imo indigents, all right, 1 million naira. I don't know what other governors are doing. I don't know what the federal government, the plan they have, but definitely, I think they may have a plan. All right, Kelvin is back. All right, Kelvin, it's good to have you back.
Okay. No, I've been
the network
I've
here.
been here.
We
I
can
didn't know that
continue.
I was cut off. Okay, I didn't know that I was cut off when I was talking. I didn't know where you heard me last, so that I don't get to repeat. But so what I was saying basically is the fact that you know, those who have been evacuees that are here now, we have to find a transitory window to debrief and reintegrate, which means we don't just show people are back here and take them in. Some of them are criminals, for crying out loud. We have to say that. Some of them are well-meaning Nigerians who find themselves in those areas doing so well for themselves, but now their source of livelihood has been cut short. So we have to create the enabling environment for their reintegration into the society. Now, you made mention of the state governor who had promised 1 million. You know, it's one thing for the government to say something, it's another thing to implement it. For the Imo State governor, I don't think he has been able to fulfill most of his public utterances, promises that he has made. Following him, I've been following him. He has not kept to his promises as such. He's a politician who oftentimes plays to the gallery, you know, but I hope that he keeps to it. The question now is that how much is 1 million and what would that do? What difference will it make? How did they come up with the 1 million yardstick to give to these people? You know, it's not just giving money. It's basically getting to find out how useful these people will be in the different areas that will be useful and creating an enabling environment for them to thrive in those areas. It's not just giving money. It's finding ways with which they can be useful to the society as a whole. So there are different skill sets that are coming in as evacuees. So let's see how we can utilize those evacuees, you know, in the different areas that they'll be useful and reintegrate them into the society by creating an enabling environment. They were not just Dundees where they were useful in those areas that they were. There are those who truly are not useful to themselves either. So we find a way to utilize all of those things in the way that are possible. So yes, it is. I love the fact that Nigeria finally has woken up to send in, you know, the plane to pick them up and all of that. But it's beyond just picking them up. You know, a lot of Nigerians have been killed. That thing is going to be done by the government to hold the government of South Africa accountable. We are going to cut off, you know, diplomatic relationship with them. As a result of that, what kind of strong message are we sending? We have to do that. Cut off diplomatic relations with South Africa. Prove to them that we are a people that cannot be taken for a ride. Unfortunately for us as a country, the average Nigerian life does not mean anything to the government. In the United States, for instance, you know, you mentioned United States collaborate with us. The average American life is worth $10 million. There's a bond of $10 million on average American life. And every American life has a $10 million bond. And so that's why they can go to any length to save their own. But ours don't have any bond placed on you. There's no value for the life of average Nigerian. That's why it's easier for the president of a country to just go to an airport and ask people who are bereaved, you know, victims to come and greet him at the airport without doing something tangible to show empathy. That's why it's easy for the president to travel out of the country when the country is boiling to go for a state visit in the United Kingdom when there's a lot of kidnapping, 300 plus children. I wish one of those keys where he is. I wonder if he will actually travel out of the country to go and do state visit. I doubt if he will do that. Or that most of the kidnapping is taking place, that Sheikh Tinubu has been kidnapped, and we'll see if the president will not do something about it. So we need to be able to look at the average Nigerian life and place the right value on the average Nigerian life, so that we can see that when our people are in some way victimized, outside of the country, we can do the right things that are necessary to be done. So to suggest what needs to be done, as they are coming in, the right data should be collected, and they have to do proper classification of these persons. Say, let's know the different skill sets. Let's separate the professionals from the others and get them properly, placed so that they can give them the right empowerment. Not necessarily giving them 1 million or other promissory notes. Those who have work to do, who want to work, create the work environment for them to work. Those who want to do business, give them the enabling environment for the business to thrive and put them in the transitory positions and all of that. And then we can have society. So that we can also checkmate those who will come back here and come with sophisticated criminality. Because, South Africa is also bedeviled with some high levels of sophisticated criminality. Some of them have been involved in some kind of crimes. Let's be sure they are not coming back here to come and continue the crimes that they've perpetrated in the country that they've been evacuated from. So we can get that proper. So there's a need for proper profiling to be able to give the right support to those who are coming in.
Prince, let's talk about the business here in Nigeria, talking about service providers, talking about cable TV and all of that, and of course shops in which they own here in Nigeria. Do you think it will be an injustice if we decide on, as Nigerians, that they should also go back to their countries as well, like what they did to Nigerians in South Africa?
Well, we run.
Kevin, are you there? All right, I wanted to ask that question seriously, Ramsey, because I think South Africans should understand that we are not in support of this, with what they have done when it comes to evacuating, telling Nigerians to go back home. Most of these Nigerians have their basic livelihoods are there. They've created job opportunities for South Africans. They've done a lot to impact South Africa. So we allowing them to be here with their businesses, service providers, cable TV, supermarkets that are owned by South Africans and Nigerians. I think they should also go back home too.
Yes, I think.
So they will understand the gravity of what is
but
actually
it will shock you that in the midst of all of this, there are some South Africans that have pushed about, I can't really remember, I think $1 trillion, is it $1 trillion or some millions of dollars into Nigeria since this issue. It was on the National Daily.
So what are they trying to imply? I read it here.
So I was saying, what are they trying to say? Are they trying to say, well, let's push this into their economy because the economy is dwindling and they will forget certain things, or they will feel, well, I don't know. I'm just saying, a lot of people, a lot of Nigerians, the social media, a lot of people mimic and say a lot of things. Someone was saying, please, it's not as if I want to do anything, please, I want to know where some South Africans establishments are. I just want to go and visit them. And all of that. So some Nigerians are thinking, all right. But I think I love the way the government is going about it. It's not about going to chase them to tooth for tat and all of that. There are diplomatic ways of approaching issues like this. The federal government is coming up. The Senate sat. From the news of yesterday, we saw what the Senate is doing, the House of Rep. Our leaders are not just quiet about the situation, but then the government of South Africa should also think about something. Somebody said this morning that they are already feeling the heat.
Yes, they are.
All right, they are already feeling the heat. But if it has political undertone, then I want to categorically say to the government of South Africa that this may not last and it may not pay them. Whatever, it is one thing to get your way, all right, as a politician, come up with strategies, you know, trying to conscientize your people for your failure or something, and you feel you want to get your way in. Then at the long run, you begin to regret why certain actions are being taken. Because as a matter of fact, you are supposed to consider the pros and cons of every action, all the decisions. Yes, this may be the outcome. This may be the positive, negative outcome of it, but then which outweigh the other before you actually make some moves. But I don't know what the South Africans really wanted. If they say, well, these people are taking over our job, you know, we are not getting so much like they are getting, and that sounds like jealousy also. But then you can take somebody's business, but you can't take the brain that has brought the business to the level it is at the moment.
Yes.
I saw videos of Nigerians who have been in South Africa for a very long time.
Oh my goodness. Exactly.
You know, they have kids who are South Africans. In that situation, are these women going to become long distance widows? You know, the men, are they going to become long distance widowers? I don't know how, I don't know what the South Africans are thinking right now.
No,
somebody who have a business in your country employing as much as 35 South Africans, you still chase them out.
That's a lot.
And there are no proper arrangements. You just tell them, leave. What about the establishment?
Exactly.
Even if they leave these things for you, the supermarkets, the offices, the businesses, will you be able to manage it after they've gone? You know, these are some of the things that people should be thinking. But sometimes when certain things are happening, people look at the immediate effect. You know, what am I going to get?
Look at long term.
This immediate time, this immediately now, what am I going to get? What about the long-term advantage or disadvantage of those decisions? You know, these are some of the things that should be looked at as a matter of fact. I know Kelvin is not back. Kelvin, are you back? All right, it's good to have you back. All right, you were trying to give an analysis, speak on the question. You can go ahead, please.
No, I don't think he's back. I think the network. But you know what? It's just unfortunate that Kevin just says it's raining where he is, so that's why the network is going in.
We said it this morning.
Yeah,
the rain. We were talking about internet service provider just now. I was just
exactly. But all the same, thank you so much, Prince Kelvin Fineface. Of course, he is a political and, of course, security expert right here on Global TV. And he has thrown a lot of weight when it comes to the issue of insecurity, xenophobic attack. We wanted to ask him more and more questions, but unfortunately, the network would not allow. But thank you so much, Prince Kelvin Fineface, for being a part of the program Global Morning. Let's quickly go on a very quick break. And then when we return, the program continues. Stay tuned.
In an age of breaking news, you need a trusted source that prioritizes accurate, factual, and unbiased reporting. This is AM News, and I am Ubong Usoro.
On Global Television, our news is rooted in verified and authoritative storytelling that keeps you educated, informed, and enlightened on all the issues that matter to you. I am Sadia Yakubu. This is Midday News.
You can trust our multi-platform news broadcast real-time and fast-check stories for all the big local and foreign headlines round the clock. I am Ramsey Enoch Agbo. This is News Express.
Our array of anchors delivers the news to our teeming viewers, breaking it down with context and perspective. This is News Cycle on Global Television. I am Anieti Patrick.
And the flagship news is your hub for the day's most engaging stories. This is News Prime, and I am Jumai Manson.
Did you miss any of our news rounds? No worries. Catch up at 10 p.m. and midnight, 7 days of the week. I am Mukhtar Kasim.
Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. We're active across all social media platforms at Global TV NG.
Many thanks for staying with us. We're looking at the xenophobic attack in South Africa and the evacuation of Nigerians, just like other countries are doing too. But then the integration process, the profiling, how. But I was just thinking, how easy would it be for these people to be profiled, their antecedents in South Africa and all of that before they get into the society, so that somebody don't corrupt them and they don't corrupt someone. But then the authorities are not just quiet over it. Like my colleague Jumai just said just now. Well, the question that was asked Kelvin before the network interrupted is, these people coming in right now, all right, because of the xenophobic attack, their businesses in Nigeria, the establishments they have in Nigeria, what does he think the Nigerian government should do about it? All right, there is a report from the National Assembly. Let's just take you through that report so that you will also know what the government is saying about the xenophobic attack and what would happen to of course, South Africans. What's the relationship going on? What's the talk all about? What is the, of course, recommendations?
According to the motion, the expiration of the ultimatum was followed by widespread fear, demonstrations, displacements, and attacks on foreign-owned homes and businesses. The Senate, through the sponsor of the motion, Senator Asuko Ekpenyong, also noted that despite repeated attacks on Nigerian-owned businesses in South Africa, South African companies operating in Nigeria, including MTN and DSTV, have continued to operate without reprisals, describing Nigeria's response as one guided by restraint, African solidarity, and respect for the rule of law.
Is concerned that while Nigerian-owned businesses in South Africa have been attacked, looted or closed or abandoned under threat, South Africa origin enterprises and brands including MTN, MultiChoice, etc. have continued to operate successfully and lawfully in Nigeria. The Senate affirms that Nigeria has chosen the path of restraint, African brotherhood, and respect for the rule of law.
Supporting the motion, Senator Wasiu Eshilokun proposed that the federal government consider nationalizing South African-owned companies operating in Nigeria, with the proceeds used to compensate Nigerians who have suffered losses from repeated xenophobic attacks.
African businesses in Nigeria, like MTN, MultiChoice, etc., should be nationalized and the proceeds/shares be used to pay Nigerians and Nigerian businesses who have suffered losses in the xenophobic attack in South Africa.
However, former Senate Majority Leader Senator Yahya Abdullahi urged caution
All right, I just can't stop laughing. I don't know. But then a lot of Nigerians are thinking so many things. That is coming from a senator. And of course, if you, just keep tab on news and you'll be hearing more and more from the National Assembly as it is always standing by there to bring us whatever they are saying as far as this xenophobic attack is concerned. All right, everyone. Our time is up. We can't continue again. But so good, it's beautiful that we would come your way again tomorrow from 7 a.m. As a matter of fact, the opinion of our guests is entirely theirs and not that of Global Television. My name is Ramsey Enoch Agbo. Many thanks for watching.
And I am Jemai Manson. Thank you all so much for being a part of Global Morning. Have an amazing day ahead. Bye-bye.